Call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. I want to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the land on which we are meeting is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'll ask for a resolution for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at Prairie Fusion Arts and Entertainment on September 23rd, 2024 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have no delegations this evening, no public hearings. We'll move right into Finance, Legislative and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finance, Legislative and Property Committee has no report at this point in the meeting.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report at the moment.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter. Is your mic on? There we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. What I have in front of me is a strategy for roadway infrastructure investment. This was brought up last, I won't go through the whole thing, but it was brought up at the last council committee meeting, and the issue is to approve a strategy for roadway infrastructure investment. With the completion of the Causeway project, additional resources have become available through the Community Building Fund, formerly known as the Gas Tax Fund. Council will be able to invest an additional $700,000 annually in road infrastructure over the next 3 years. This strategy will not result in an increase in rate to taxpayers in our community. So the issue is, like I said, to approve a strategy for the roadway infrastructure investment, and the City of Portage la Prairie's annual budget allocation for the roadway infrastructure will be strategically targeted into 3 areas. These areas will be adjusted annually based on the ongoing assessments and priority shifts, and the priorities will be outlined annually to the City Council with the appropriate budget allocations outlined. Communications on these annual priorities will be clearly communicated to the public, and so there, like I said, they are targeted, the infrastructure will be strategically targeted into 3 key areas. The first one is road resurfacing, and the focus on that is that this allocation will target roads that are structurally sound but require a new surface layer to prevent further deterioration. Resurfacing is a cost-effective way to maintain roads before more extensive damage occurs. The objective behind it is to extend the lifespan of existing roadways by applying new layers of asphalt or other durable materials. The second key area is road reconstruction, and the focus on that is the allocation will be dedicated to roads where the underlying structure is compromised, necessitating full reconstruction to restore safety and usability. Reconstruction is essential for roads that have suffered extensive damage, particularly following the harsh winter spring of 2024. The objective behind this is to rebuild severely damaged or outdated roadways that cannot be maintained through resurfacing alone. And the final one is the annual maintenance and repair, which is our potholes and surface cracking. The focus will be on allocation that will support routine maintenance activities, including filling potholes, repairing surface cracks, and other minor repairs. Regular maintenance is vital for extending the lifespan of all roadways and ensuring public safety. Administration will also review additional equipment and a communication strategy to keep the public informed on the progress. The objective for this is to conduct ongoing maintenance to address minor issues before they escalate into major problems. So this is a great plan, and it's a really good plan, and it's on top of it, this is a plan, and so very proud of this, and like I said, by allocating the budget in these three areas and adjusting it annually based on the need, the City of Portage la Prairie will ensure a balanced approach to maintaining and improving its roadway infrastructure while addressing the setback and overall road conditions. And it's very important to know that this aligns with Council's strategic plan under the quality of life, community safety and well-being, and economic opportunity. So it is at the City Council, it is the administration recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the strategy for roadway infrastructure investment as presented.
Moved by Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Espy. Any comments or questions from council? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Worship. No questions to speak of, but I just want to say that it's so much street talk, I'll call it, no pun intended. Probably one of the most common areas that come up is the quality of our roads. I think we get it and understand that we've got a bit of an infrastructure deficit, and it's always hard to maintain the balance in the budget. I am so proud to be able to support this investment, and I will be supporting the motion for this. We understand, I think, that $700,000 doesn't go a long way, but I think it's a step in the right direction to really improve the quality of the roads that we have on. I just want, one quick question I meant to ask was, if somebody does notice a pothole or notice a road or notice something that maybe isn't, what's the steps that they take in order to at least let the city be aware, or do they just keep driving over it every day till their tire pops?
No, absolutely. They can. There's a nice little link that we can send them, and they can report it, and it goes right to the operations department, and then they deal with it.
Perfect. I trust the media to be able to pick that up and help get our message out to the city for those needed areas. But I will be speaking in favor or voting in favor of this motion, and I think it's a great step in a right direction.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Worship.
Mike?
Thank you, Worship, and I also will be supporting this. This is great news. We are doubling the road budget with no property tax increase. I think that's a great thing. We're using the community building fund, which is for infrastructure, and I applaud staff for bringing this forward, and for Councillor Porter for bringing it to council, that we're going to double the road budget. And you think about I agree, we always need more, Councillor Meyer, but this is great news for our citizens. And for me, it really means that we listened this past year. This was a tough winter in Portage, and now we've listened and are put in the budget for the road work. So I'm very pleased about this. The one comment I will make, and I did mention this to administration, I hope administration can take the flexibility of the program, and if they need more money for one of the categories, they can adjust that money in the middle of the year without having to come back to council all the time. They have their budget, because they'll know what roads need fixing the best. So very supportive of this, and I want to thank Councillor Porter for bringing this forward.
Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to applaud the administration on putting a plan together like this. Not only does it breaks it down into three categories, which is very useful in terms of capital planning as well. The money, as Councillor Massey has explained, has been doubled. I think it's a great use of infrastructure. And knowing what the small pieces that need to get fixed, it's good preventive maintenance and prevents them from getting larger and more costly. So seeing it broken into three categories like this in a plan, which is always good, so that exactly as to what's indicated here earlier is that it can be moved between those categories. Thank you to Councillor Porter for bringing it up, and thank you to Councillor Meyer for the street talk. Thank you.
Yeah, I can say I've given a lot of reflection in the last few days because sometimes Mother Nature is part of our engagement process. And, 5 years ago we had a Thanksgiving of an ice storm that caused us to enter into our generator project and spending money in that way. And Mother Nature this past winter with its freeze thaw has pushed us forward into creating this plan, and so I guess we have to thank her sometimes. But I agree, I think this is one that I think our citizens are definitely going to appreciate and understand. When for us on council, when we are approached by citizens and talk about our roads or have questions, it's going to be nice to have something to reflect back to and say, we do have a plan and here's what it is. So talk to us at the end of next year and see if they've seen improvements in it. So I applaud administration of putting this together for sure. Thank you. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety Committee has nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. We have no items of deferred business. We have one item of new business, the award tender for the demolition of former Agassiz Youth Center, and that's Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. This evening we are to award the tender for the demolition of the former Agassiz Youth Center. And as you can see in the analysis that when the former Agassiz Youth Center was closed, a portion of that land not needed for the new hospital was transferred to the city of Portage. To prepare this land for development, the existing buildings and fence will need to be demolished. Asbestos abatement was recently completed by total demolition, and the city was very happy with the work done and the communication by the contractor. As this tender was done with the assistance of Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, their template was used. In this template, the evaluation is done on a pass-fail basis. So there were 3 tenders received for this project, but one did not meet the minimum score and their financial submission was not open. Therefore, we have 2 contractors that had acceptable scores and their prices were as follows. Clearview Demolition Limited, $1,094,344. This is net of GST. And 6304052 Manitoba Limited, OA Total Demolition, price of $253,660. They had the lowest bid. Total Demolition had the lowest bid and scored well on the rated criteria, have extensive experience and have qualified employees to carry out the work. And this project aligns with our strategic plan initiative of quality of life, as it is the first step in creating a new residential and commercial development. And we're hoping the work begins this fall and will be completed in early 2025. Therefore, the administrative recommendation, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award the tender for the demolition of the former Agassiz Youth Center to 6304052 Manitoba Limited for the total contract price of $253,660 net of GST.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to administration, if I could just ask for some clarity that given the price discrepancy between the 2 bids, are we comparing apples to apples with the 2 bids?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Doyle, I'll ask Ms. Laquie Jobin, our Director of Operations, to answer that question.
Yes, so I think the big difference between the 2 bidders is one is a local Portage business and one is based out of BC. The local business that was the low bidder also has recycling, concrete recycling, metal recycling right on site here. So they would not need to be paying the large disposal fees that some other contractors would that don't have those type of facilities. So, and we've worked with them on the previous contract, and I do feel that they have a very good understanding of the work, and I don't have any concerns.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No? Clear. Okay. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, another item of new business. We have first reading of bylaw 24-8768, zoning amendment PC 59-24, Fox at 446 Tupper Street North. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Worship, and Council in front of you. You have option to read the first bylaw for first reading for 24-8768, if that does happen, and then the advertising, the process begins. So the property in question is 446 Tupper Street North. If you look in your package, you're going to see the actual bylaw amendment if it does pass. You're also going to see Schedule A and the sketch of the location as well. Now the background, of course, is for 446 Tupper Street North, and really what the client is wishing to do currently, it's zoned R1, which is residential single-family zone, and the applicant, Mr. Brian Fox, wishes to rezone this property to a C1 neighborhood commercial zone. Just for your information, what is a C1 as compared to C2, C3, and C4? C1 is this bylaw contains, the zone C1 is a neighborhood commercial zone. Important in this situation. This zone provides locations characteristically small in size, either within or abutting residential zones for low-intensity commercial, office, service, and institutional establishments meant to service the needs of the immediate neighborhood. Development in this zone will be of compatible scale and sensitive to existing development, both on the arterial street if it shares residential uses with the surrounding residential neighborhood, and it does encourage high-density residential uses as well. So the applicant is wishing to rezone it. His intent is to maybe put a retail store, but if it is approved to C1, there are a number of permitted uses that could be done. There's also a number of commercial uses that could be attributed to it as well. Conditional uses as well, but those would have to come back to council if it's something other than a permitted use within that area. If you refer to the development plan, it does talk about neighborhood-oriented services and amenities, and it goes through exactly what the development plan would be looking for, and this does fit within that. If council so wishes, landscape and drainage plans may be required. Council may also request concept plans or plans for circulation, lighting, fencing, and exterior elevations, and any studies to determine the impacts on municipal services, traffic flows, and surrounding land issues. So at this point, this application has been circulated to various city departments with a concern that may be parking. And if you look at the C1, it requires a one parking stall for 46 meters. It requires one parking space for every 46 square meters of floor area. So what would have to happen is I believe the applicant, and I'll ask the question, would have to come back for a variance for the parking, but we'll ask that question in a second. Right now, the issue is just to get first reading for change it from R1 to C1. The application circulated to the province for review after comment if first reading passes. The first reading of bylaw number 24-8768 will commence this process that we talked about as defined in the Planning Act. So with that said, and as the administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie give bylaw number 24-8768 first reading, and that public notice be provided as defined in section 168 of the Planning Act.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Worship. At this point in time, I will be speaking certainly in favor of this. If anybody does look at the zoning maps that we currently have right now, most of the west side of that street is already zoned C1, and I think this would actually fit right within that area on that corner. Big proponent of any kind of commercial development, and we already know what was on that corner before, so I think any improvement would certainly be better than that. Keeping in mind that even though his request is a retail operation, there still are a number of permitted uses that could be handled in that once the zoning process or if the zoning process passes. So at this point in time, I will be speaking in favor of the first reading, and then obviously it'll be public notices, and we'll see if there's any objections or complaints or anything at that point in time. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Another item of new business, we have first reading of traffic bylaw 24-8769 to amend bylaw 20-8705. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Worship. So the issue here is to approve the traffic bylaw 24-8769, thereby amending the traffic bylaw 20-8705. The alternative is to approve the traffic bylaw 24-8769 or not to approve the traffic bylaw at 24-8769. Background behind it is the concerns were received from residents that prompted a review of the city's traffic bylaw, resulting in the following amendments being proposed by administration. The first one being parking concerns on Oxford Common were brought forward, which were substantiated by the Public Safety Department concerns regarding emergency vehicle access in that area. No parking zones are being proposed on the south side of Oxford Common from River Road to the most northwest corner of Oxford Common, and on the north side of Oxford Common from the River Road to a point 20 meters west of the intersection of River Road and Oxford Common. The second concern was the Public Safety Department also brought forward concerns regarding emergency vehicle access on 3rd Street South, as vehicles being parked on both sides can inhibit passage. A no parking zone is being proposed on the west side of 3rd Street South from Duke Avenue to Crescent Road. The third concern was a restaurant on Saskatchewan Avenue West, between 17th Street Northwest and 18th Street Northwest, has requested 30-minute parking in front of their establishment, and this is being proposed. Number 4 is the construction of, and the final one is the construction of roundabouts in recent years, so it is necessary to amend the definition of intersection to include roundabouts. So is the administration recommendation, and I so move that, and this is for first reading, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the traffic bylaw 24-8769 by giving it its first reading.
Moved by Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions or comments from anyone? Councillor Porter?
Okay, yes, I do have a couple of comments and a question, and I wanted to bring it up with regards to the traffic law amendment on 3rd Street South. There is a federal court, which is the Court of Queen's Bench, that is located on 3rd Street South. It holds trials from all over Central Region, and when there's a jury trial that is scheduled, there's a jury selection first, and there's at least 100 people from all over Central Region are summoned for this selection. This process, the jury selection, takes at least 3 to 4 hours, and no one is allowed to leave until they are excused by the justice. This also means that there are 100 vehicles that are in need of parking around that area. Previously, a portion of the street went to a 2-hour parking on 3rd, and there is no parking on Duke in front of the old jail, and there's no parking on 4th Street Southeast from Duke to Countess Avenue, as well as there only parking allowed on the north side of Countess behind the jail, and accessibility will be a factor as there are a lot of older people who agree to come to this selection. My question to administration is there anywhere in the current traffic bylaw that allows a special parking permit for the day on a no parking street? Knowing that there will be a cost to, and knowing that there would be a cost associated with it. As well, another comment on how will the Legion be affected by this as the north side of Duke Avenue. There is also no parking. And that's my comment. My question is about the parking permit, if there's special permits that you can buy in a no parking zone to be allowed to park.
So through your worship to Councillor Porter, and so I just want to clarify the decision to start the no parking zone at Duke is because the street physically narrows at that point, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and causes some of the safety concerns administration has brought forward. In terms of the courthouse and the special events, I'll just court hearings that require a huge amount of parking. I mean, that we don't have a special process in terms of people being able to park in no parking zones with some type of designated permit. That being said, when there are special or unusual events, we do work with our Director of Public Safety and our bylaw team to try and accommodate as best we can. There are parking provisions in Heritage Square East and West that allow people to park up to 3 hours, and that there is provision in some of the residential streets around that area to park longer than 2 hours. That being said, administration didn't necessarily consider court trials. I'm not sure what the frequency is, if there's still a large amount of frequency, or if this is a once in a several month period. This is the first reading of the bylaw. I'm more than happy to work with our bylaw and operational team to take a closer look at it. And I'm more than happy to try and answer those questions when this comes to second and third reading for yourself.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Worship. I will save most of my comments for after the first reading, once we get into second reading, if first reading does pass. But my question is, this is kind of an omnibus bill. And there's 4 different areas in here. And I'm only going to speak about one. If there's one area that maybe one councillor maybe doesn't agree with, maybe changes his mind once the information is heard, but we're trying to pass this as one entire bylaw, how do we address the one issue that maybe become an issue, if that makes any sense? Through your worship, of course, to administration.
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer. So this came to second and third reading, and if you had a concern with a portion of the bylaw, again, a traffic bylaw has a lot of different specifically named provisions for no parking. Frankly, it has actually all of them in it. So if there was a concern you specifically had with a component of the bylaw, what I would suggest is that you would suggest an amendment to the resolution to incorporate or remove that particular provision of the bylaw. And if your fellow councillors supported that, they would vote in favor, and that would be incorporated to the writing of the bylaw. If they disagreed, then it would go back to the original bylaw as recommended by administration. I would encourage, if you do have concerns about one component, please make administration aware of it. We can take a second look, make sure we're considering all the factors that would lead you to vote against it, and try to find solutions before the second or third reading.
Perfect. Thank you, the administration, through your worship. But I guess the only other question is, it's okay to do that after first reading?
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer, absolutely. Always good to know if there's going to be challenges so that administration can anticipate it, but council at any time has the right to amend a resolution in front of them to remove or add components to the bylaw.
Right, and if the rest of the council so agrees or disapproves, that can be done after the first reading. It can be done before second and third reading is commenced.
At any of the readings, that's correct, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you.
I just have a question about public notice is on, especially on the 3rd Street one, is most, because I know I've heard a lot from Oxford Common myself, so I know how they're probably feeling about it, but 3rd Street is definitely one I'm curious about.
Absolutely, your worship. So the intention of administration is to provide notice to the property owners in close proximity so they're aware prior to the second reading. In that letter, it will provide a way for them to indicate any type of feedback they may have. Often people don't like to have street parking in front of their property removed. I think we all appreciate that. This is more of a larger community good that we're trying to incorporate into this bylaw. Legitimate public safety concerns, especially regarding 3rd Avenue, that have been standing for a long time. I think we've all noticed that traffic flow has increased in our community as we've grown, and it's becoming more of a concern that administration felt we needed to address. So I apologize, I'll summarize that again. Directly impacted properties will be notified of the change prior to the second reading, and they'll have an opportunity to provide feedback. They'll also be provided notice when we intend to do the second and third reading, and if they choose to, if they are not satisfied by administration's response to their concerns, they would be welcome to come as a delegation to that meeting.
Perfect. Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Worship. Just a question to administration, then you've answered a lot of things that are rolling in my mind, but that would this come, I'm not clear on, I know planning, it's like a planning thing, but it's parking. does this come back to the next council meeting, or is it, I don't know the process, maybe is of when the timing of this all happens.
Subject to the first reading being carried, I think the intention of council was, the intention of administration was to roll out the consultation process. That may mean that it takes us until the first meeting in November rather than the second meeting in October. We just have to gauge how fast we can move. Of course, wanted to make sure we had council support to bring forward to first reading. Then we'll roll out our consultation process. If we don't feel we can do that in a meaningful way prior to the second meeting in October, I would say most likely this will come to the first meeting, the only meeting in November.
Okay. Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be voting in favor of this first reading because I think all of the above need to be addressed. However, my one concern is with Oxford Common. I have seen it in there. It is very congested on both sides of the street. However, I feel like we will end up moving the problem from that spot to a different spot a couple hundred yards away. You know, and what would the message be to the residents in that area who lived far enough away from it, but now are going to be right in the thick of it?
Through your worship to Councillor Doyle, it's absolutely something administration is considering. It's tough to know how people will react to parking restrictions. That being said, it's believed that there is capacity in the apartment lots that people are choosing not to use because there's fees associated to it. We're hoping this will encourage them to use those parking spots within the lots. There is some areas in Oxford that I do believe are safety issues no matter what, particularly close to the intersections that have come up. But this is a living, breathing document. As you know, we're changing it right now, and sometimes it takes a little bit of trial and error. This will address the largest concern currently, and that's our process right now in terms of adjusting to it. We will be monitoring, and if we see that there needs to be additional amendments or changes or working more with stakeholders, we will take those steps.
Thank you.
Nothing else? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we have one item of old business. We have the second and third reading of Cancel Borrowing Authority Bylaw 24-8764. Finance, Legislative and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship and colleagues. Before you, you have the issue, as the Mayor mentioned, to cancel the remaining unauthorized borrowing authority for the Saskatchewan Avenue West Phase 1 Utility Infrastructure Project by giving Bylaw 24-8764 second and third readings. So in 2021, the City of Portage requested $6 million in borrowing authority to fund the installation of new water and sewer pipes in the shoulder areas of Saskatchewan Avenue West between 4th Street West and Elm Street. The Municipal Board Order E21-032 was passed on April 6, 2021, approving the request. And in that, $2,942,000 in borrowing was required to complete the utility component of this project. The debentures will be paid in full by December 31, 2037, and this has left a balance of $3,058,000 of unused borrowing authority. And unused borrowing authority is canceled by bylaw, and so that's what we're doing here tonight. So the administrative recommendation, and I would move, is that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the cancellation of $3,058,000 in unused borrowing authority for the Saskatchewan Avenue West Phase 1 Utility Infrastructure Project, Municipal Board Order E21-032, by giving Bylaw 24-8764 second reading.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? My only comment would be just for us as council to remember this process of having to go back to the municipal board to say, hey, we don't want this money anymore. And when we go to our AMM convention in the fall and we have the resolution on the table of looking at the municipal board, this would be one to remember that we're spending our time on. So
Thank you for raising that, Your Worship.
you're welcome.
I've said enough things about the municipal board.
Thank you. And all those in favor? And that is carried.
I would therefore move that bylaw 24-8764 be given third and final reading, finally passed and sealed and signed and sealed.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor? And that is carried. We will adjourn council at 6:37 p.m. We will move right into committee. We'll call committee to order at 6:37 p.m. Finance, Legislative and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. And colleagues, before you have the issue is to set our 2025 annual tax sale date for real property with the 2023 property taxes outstanding. The tax sale bylaw 20-8708 requires council's approval to set the tax sale date annually. Administration is recommending the tax sale date be Monday, September 15, 2025 for outstanding property taxes. So this is here in committee for you, and I won't go through the rest of it. It's for your consideration, but this will be coming forward to the next council meeting. That's September 15th, 2025 for real property with 2023 property taxes outstanding. So look for that at the next council meeting.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay, City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development has nothing on the agenda in committee, but I will. Well, I do have one item. But before I get to that, I'll get Councillor Massey to address one of the committees within the committee is the Chamber of Commerce. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Councillor Myron, Your Worship and colleagues. On October 9th, the Mayor and the City Manager and myself met with the Chamber. Once again, a very open and frank dialogue with the Chamber on a number of issues. They did ask about our takeaway from the 911 presentation, which was quite interesting. So that obviously made they saw that in the media, I assume, and so the Mayor responded and some of the things we learned about the 911 issue. So it was good that they're also interested in 911. We gave them an update on the Community Safety Officer Program, which, as you know, got a bit of a setback, but gave them an update. The City Manager did on where we're going and the new hires and so on. Talked about immigration a little bit and where we were at as a city with our immigration policy. Update on the Agassiz Youth Center. And of course, very pleased that Saskatchewan Avenue will be completed. And they gave many, many kudos to the city for keeping businesses informed and talked to us about a celebration of some sort. I'm not sure what they had in mind, but I'm sure our staff will come up with something. Maybe the Mayor breaking a champagne bottle, something. I don't know what it is, but we're all pleased at that project. And they were very complimentary of the look of Saskatchewan Avenues. So that was nice to see. So that was the meeting with the Chamber, and if there are any questions, I can attempt to answer them. But again, I'm really pleased when we have these meetings with their executive and keeps the old lines of communication open. And of course, their awards ceremony is coming up on November 21 for the Business Awards, which a number of us will be at that award ceremony. So, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. And Your Worship, if I may, I just have two items I would just like to address for the record. One is that since our last council meeting, and I know that there has already been a media story on it, but the Public Art Committee finished a long-standing project and was able to facilitate the erection of a public art piece within Simplot Public Park. So I just want, on behalf of the Public Art Committee, certainly thank the city for their support and thank the administration for all their work in including Mr. Gessel of the Planning District for his guidance through it as well. So if anybody hasn't had a chance to get out there, I encourage you to go and take a look at it. It was by a well-renowned Indigenous artist, Mr. Kevin McMaster, from Brandon. And if you look at it, it's imposing. It is one of the most substantive pieces of artwork that I've seen. And I mean, understanding art is subject to different opinions. I think he just did an incredible job, and I just think it really adds to the landscape. I can hardly wait till I tell my granddaughter I'm going to meet her under the Power Arc, the Eagle Power Arc at Simplot Park, because we'll know that that is a piece for a long time. So thank you to the city, and
Just for clarity, it's just Mackenzie.
thank you very much, Kevin McKenzie. Thank you, Your Worship. Secondly, I just want to kind of update Council just on the Tourism Committee. We know that tourism is a large portion of our community, and although we will have a quarterly report from them at the end, I believe it might be the end of October when the quarterly reports come out, which will give you a full update. I just wanted to just kind of bring Council aware, just kind of a little bit of things that they've been doing, just so that we're on the same page and know that they are meeting regularly. It is, of course, a committee of PRED. But the Tourism Committee is handled by a contractor through PRED, and she does an absolutely amazing job of bringing together and fulfilling the mandate of what the Tourism Committee is about. So a couple of things that happened up in the last couple of meetings is one is that the committee has grown. I think it's important that you involve all stakeholders within the tourism portion of our city and our region, because it is a regional perspective. So it is growing as well. So in addition to that, our coordinator is actually making a presentation at the Communities in Bloom Conference in October as well. And this presentation will focus on the impact that visitors have on a community and the role that organizations such as Communities Bloom play in encouraging visitation. In addition to that, there's a new website that will be launching at the end of the week. So I encourage everybody to have a look at that, and certainly put any kind of comments that you wish to that as well. And I won't get into all the events coming up, but there are a number of events that are taking place between now and the end of the year that, of course, the Tourism Committee has also been a part of as well. So I just wanted to thank the Tourism Committee for the work that they've done, and be looking forward to their full report, and of course to the coordinator and to PRED for facilitating what they've done so far. If there's any questions, if not, that's the end of my report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Worship, and through your Worship, I'd like to call upon Councillor Massey if you would like to elaborate a little bit more on the United Way kickoff.
Thank you, Councillor Espy and colleagues. I attended on behalf of Mayor and Council, brought greetings to United Way kickoff. It was a great event, a great luncheon here in the Herman Pryor. And our beloved councillor, he was not there as a councillor, but Preston Meyer, is the chair of the fundraising campaign. It's okay, Preston. You deserve a little mention. And their goal is $239,000. But I was pleased to be there on behalf of the city to express our support, and as well inform the media that we also are in a workplace campaign supporting our United Way through our employees and so on. So it was a great event, and I'm confident that they're going to raise their goal of $239,000. On another report on the library, I want to advise council that unfortunately we're losing our library director, Jen Kendall. She's been a great asset for the library, and she's very happy. She did a lot of great work. She's just has another opportunity now to go to, so we will be starting a recruitment process for a new library director. But the good news is I think Jen has left the library in such solid foundation that I think the successor will have hopefully an easier time in picking up the job and running with it. But on behalf of council, I'm sure all of you would like to express appreciation to Jen Kendall for all her work on behalf of the Portage Library. That's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more item, Your Worship, if I may. I would just like to recognize a couple of members of the Parks Committee. Steve Hildebrand, after many, many years with the Parks Committee and the driving force behind all things skate park related, has stepped down. He did this remotely. He had not been living in Portage la Prairie for quite some time, and he stayed on the committee to see that project through, and now he's moving even farther away. So he has stepped down from the Parks Committee, so I'd like to extend thanks to him. Also, former councillor Melissa Draycott who has been involved with the Parks Committee right from the start, and still is, has stepped down and served her last meeting as chair of the Parks Committee. But she will be staying on, but thanks to her for all of her work during this entire decade-long process.
Excellent. On that, we have just put out, and I mean, those two have done such great things, and I always know Steve is still always here in person at the big events, so it's great. But we are recruiting for members of the Parks Committee, and the ad has gone out for that, for people to want to get involved, and it's on our social media. You can see it, and on our website. Is it there? Yeah, on our website for people to get involved that way. Can I just add under your committee there too? We also have a few little changes in recruitment for a few groups that we're doing with the city, is that we're changing a little bit of engagement on how we're doing things. And the former Public Art Committee and the Heritage Committee are no longer, just the purpose of those committees has changed, and so we've decided that we're, rather than doing formal committees, we're doing mayor and council advisory groups, and we are looking for members of those groups for 3 different areas: heritage, public art, as well as accessibility. So if you'd like more information on those, you can also see it on our website, on our social media. Reach out to any of us on council and we can chat with you about it, but we just want to have people who are interested in those areas to help us as mayor and council and administration make decisions on things in our city moving forward. Ad hoc committees where you'll be called upon as needed, so you don't have to be scheduled for a monthly meeting, etc., just on an as needed basis. So thank you. Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report at this committee, but if any of my colleagues have anything that they would like to bring up in Waterworks, which I may remind you houses the best tasting water in Western Canada, please do so. If nothing, thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you. Okay. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Transportation Committee has nothing to report, but I would just like to bring up the fact that our project, Saskatchewan project, is pretty much at the end of the race, and if you want to call it that. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience. It absolutely looks beautiful out there. Thank you to our director, Jocelyn, there for all those updates. It's been wonderful. Can't hardly wait to christen our Saskatchewan Avenue. Might be, who knows when it'll be, might be the Santa Claus Parade or something like that. And it's looking really good. It's that close. The lines still have to be painted. There's, I think, a very little landscaping left to do, and I don't even know where they're going to get the grass if they needed it now anyway, but it's kind of close to the end of the year for that. But yes, it looks great, and we're going to enjoy this for many years to come. Thank you.
I just saw a sale on sod, Jocelyn, if anybody's looking. So excellent. Public Safety Committee. Oh, sorry, Councillor Massey.
Sorry, yes, I do have one more thing. I'd like to invite Councillor Massey to talk about the 35 years at the Portage recycling plant.
Thank you, Councillor Porter, and Your Worship and colleagues. I was privileged to attend the 35th anniversary of our Portage Recycling and District. And I'll tell you, I went there, they had a barbecue going, and the amount of stuff that they put through there, and it's a service that we all are impacted by. If we don't get our recycling picked up, we hear about it as councillors. So I was there, I was pleased to talk to the general manager, and this little stat, since 1989, they have recycled 174,440,765 pounds of recycled material. That's amazing. So, just for your information.
Thank you.
Yes, and I just also like to comment on that's that much diverted from our landfill. So that's very important. So thank you.
Excellent. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple things this evening. The first one, just over a week ago, Mayor Knox and I attended the Retail Secure Summit in Winnipeg. It was put on by the Retail Council of Canada. And for the two of us, it was just kind of more so information, but a lot of the information that was presented was more so for business owners. And Stephanie Dunn, the Executive Director of the Portage Chamber of Commerce, was also there. And the speakers talked about environmental changes with your retail store, with regards to lighting, visibility with the height of your fixtures and stuff like that. The Premier was there, the Justice Minister, the Honourable Matt Weed was there. And for me, one of my big takeaways was just some very dumbed down terms, you know, that I could understand. That was presented by the former Chief Justice of the Court of Manitoba with regards to the difference between bail, probation, and parole. I thought he did a very good job at clarifying what the differences were and why one is used, and just kind of outlined how our provincial justice system works, or doesn't work sometimes, right? But so I just thought that was good information, and any business owners, if you want to touch base with Ms. Dunn over at the Chamber, I know she gathered some notes and some information while she was there, so it might be an opportunity to chat with her. And secondly,
Can I just
yes.
on that, it did come up in our chamber meeting that we had, that she brought up that she attended there, and that they are going to be looking at implementing some of the things, the workshops, etc.
Oh,
that they.
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Excellent.
good. Yeah.
And secondly, I would like to call on our Director of Public Safety, Brad Bailey, just to give us an update on what the CSO program is looking like at this moment.
Mr. Bailey?
So we have 4 new officers hired. They begin their training this Monday coming up here. We had uniform fittings for them, so they will be attending their training in Brandon, Manitoba. It's 4 weeks of training, so they should be graduating on the 15th from their training, and we should see them the following week, I believe 18th or 19th on the street. So there's again 4 of them, and we're very pleased that we'll be back on track.
Excellent.
That's great news. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the retail crime.
Sure.
Sorry, it's one thing that I took away from it is that not very long ago, Winnipeg implemented their retail crime prevention program, which was new, and the fact that they can ultimately say that they're seeing success from the program, and you're hearing it from the business community that was there, I think that gave me a sense of positivity that, you know, because it's a little bit similar to our CSO program, etc. too, is that, you know, the more we push forward as council and keep investing in these things, that we are going to see some improvements in these areas. So it was a little bit of a light that we needed to hear, that, you know, our efforts are going to see, and hopefully citizens will start to feel some of those efforts. So in combination with the new four new hires, it's great news.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but worked in a way that they've now extended the program, correct?
Correct, yeah. And they're gonna look at expanding it to rural areas. Portage is perfect for it.
Well, I agree, and that is all I have for my report this evening.
Thank you. If no one else, we will adjourn committee at 6:56 p.m. Thank you, everyone.